Okay, so we're gonna talk today about similar polygons, and it's gonna be easy if you remember the topic from last class. Just as review, congruent is figures that have the exact same shape and size. You guys remember that? And there is a symbol for congruent that is this. You guys remember that? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Today we have two different definitions. Number one, similar. Two figures that have the same shape, but not necessarily the same size. There might be, you could have a triangle this small and a triangle this big, and they will be similar, but they're not the same size. And the symbol for that is this. The symbol to represent that is this. We have similarity ratio. It's the ratio of the lengths of two corresponding sides. So when we have two figures, we take one side, the other one, they correspond to each other, and we compare them, and we get a ratio for that, and that's what it means. Two polygons are similar if their angles are congruent and their sides are proportional. So what this means, anybody knows what angles are congruent means? They are the same. All of the angles for the polygon are going to be the same, and the sides may be equal or not, but they will always have a ratio between all of them. You're going to get something like this. ABCD is similar to WSYC, and like we say, what this means is A corresponds to W, B corresponds to X, C corresponds to Y, and D corresponds to C. Now, like I said earlier, for polygon to be similar, the angles are congruent. So angle A is going to be congruent or the same than W. Angle B is going to be congruent with X. And what about angle C? Y. Yeah. And angle D? Z. Now, the sides, like the definition says, they are proportional to each other. They might not be the same, but they're proportional. Side AB, so AB corresponds to WX. So AB corresponds to WX. So 15 and 5. Now side BC corresponds to XY. So 4. Now side CD, what would that correspond to? YC. So Y. That's going to be 7, 21. Wait, 21 second. And then DA corresponds to CW. So the numbers would be 18, 6. And now this all correspond to each other, and we can reduce them. 15 to 5, what does that reduce to? 3, 1. What about 12, 4? 3 over 1. What about 21 over 7? 3 1. And 18 over 6? 3 over 1. So as you can see, the ratio for every side is the same. So that means that the two polygons are similar to each other because the ratio is the same. If you get something different, like 2 over 1 in one of them, that means that the polygons are not similar because they don't have the same ratio. Any questions on this? No? Okay. Okay, let's try this exercise. So um, angle N is congruent to which angle?
J. J.
J. So if you read LMNO is similar to HIJK, remember M is the third letter, it's going to be congruent to the third letter. So N is congruent to J. Now if we have the side HK, what is that going to be proportional to?
L.
Say it again?
LO.
LO. And that's because we have the first and the last. Now we write down the first and the last of the other one, so it's LO. What about JK?
NO.
And O. This is the third and the fourth. So that's how you would solve this. Something to remember is, like it says, the angles are going to be congruent. And this we're going to set them as a proportions because size may not be congruent to each other. Any questions on this? The scale factor is just like we did earlier. We compared two sides that correspond to each other, and we got 3/1. So that's gonna be your scale factor, the ratio between two corresponding sides. Okay, you're gonna have this problem in your assignment. So if you wanna write it down where we solve it together, you're gonna have one less work to do. So we have three different variables that we need to find. We have x, y, and z, and we're gonna start finding x. So what number from the other polygon corresponds to x? 10. So we can set that as a fraction. X over 10 is equal to. Now we need to find another fraction, another two sides that correspond to each other that will help us solve for x. So which one do you guys think will be?
10 and 5.
10 and 5. We have these two sides that correspond to each other. We know 35 and y correspond to each other, but we don't want to use those because if we use those, we're going to have two different variables. We're going to have x and y, and that's going to make it impossible for us to solve for x. So we're going to use these two, 5 and 10. Do you guys know whether 5 goes on top or bottom?
5.
It goes on the bottom because the 10 from the other one is on the bottom.
Yep, so we took this 10 is from the this 10 comes from the one on the left and the x comes from the right. So whatever number we take, we're gonna put on top has to come from the figure on the right. So 10 over 5, and now we can solve for x. We do the cross multiplication. So 5x is equal to 10 times 10? 100. And now we do divide by 5. X is equal to 20. Okay, now we can solve for y. So, what number corresponds to y? 35. So we do y over 35 is equal to what numbers will we use?
10 and 5.
10 and 5. We can use that again. Where will 10 and 5 go?
5 on top.
5 on top because the y comes from the one on the left. So we have 5 and 10, and then we can cross multiply again. That would be 10y is equal to 5 times 35. 175, right? Yep. Good. Now we can divide by 10, and y is equal to 17.5. Alright, now we can solve for c. Which number corresponds to c? 15. Okay, so c over 15 is equal to 5 and 10 again, we can insert again. Where will 5 go?
Top.
Top, because it comes from the left, and the 6 in the middle. Now we can multiply, plus multiply again. Right here. 10z is equal to 75.
Yeah.
Z is equal to divided by 10, 7.5.
Cool.
So that will be your 3 answers for M. Okay. Any questions on this? No, sir. No? Okay. Now we're gonna solve this one. We're gonna do the exact same. We're gonna solve for x first. What side corresponds to x? 4. Now, which two sides will we use to set it equal to instead of proportion? 6 and 9, good. Let's take those from each other. And there is no variable in there, so we can set it up like that. Where will 6 go?
Bottom.
Bottom, because of the 4. So 6, 9, and then we can cross multiply again. So that would be 6x is equal to 9 times 4. And now what do we do? Divide by 6. X is equal to 6. Now, somebody wants to tell me how to do for y?
Well, put it like, yeah. Like,
Underneath.
yeah, you know.
A fraction?
Yeah.
Y over 12.
Well,
And it's going to be equal to
6 and 9.
46.
6 and 9. Where does 6 go?
On the top.
They're on the same
On the top.
On the top, because y comes from the left and it's on top. 6, 9. Now what do we do?
Cross multiply.
Cross multiply. So 9y is equal to 12 times 6. 70. Why did I go? 72. Now we can divide. Y is equal to 8. Okay, now we can solve for C. C over 15 is going to be equal to
6 and
6 and 9. Where will 6 go?
On the top.
9. The top.
9z is going to be equal to 6 times 15.
72.
90.
90.
It's okay.
That's okay. And then we divide by 9. And we get C is equal to 10, right?
Yes!
So that's going to be your answer for those. Any questions on this?
No.
Nope. Okay. Okay, now this on this one we need to find the perimeters for the two figures. On the assignment for today is gonna ask you first for the ratio or what's it called?
Scale factor.
Or the scale factor. Yep. So it's gonna ask for the scale factor, and do you guys remember how to find the scale factor? Yep. How do you find it? Nope. Okay. Remember the scale factor is a proportion, is the ratio between two corresponding sides. Okay. So what would be two sides that correspond to each other from these two figures?
Yeah.
Yep, 6 and 8. So we have 8 over 6. And to be a ratio, it has to be on this smaller form. So what would that be?
4/2.
4/3. So that would be your scale factor, and you have to write it down like this: 4 to 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, now we can find the perimeter for this figure. Remember that if it has two slashes, that means they are the same. So that would be 8, and this would be 16. And now how do we find the perimeter? Add it all. So what would that be?
Wait.
16 plus 16. All of them? Yeah, just all of them. This is perimeter.
It is 20 plus 36.
No.
24.
What's 36?
That's 52.
Right?
60. Oh, I
16.
forgot about 12. I forgot about 16.
So yeah. So now we have the perimeter for this figure. That's gonna be 60. And now we need to find the perimeter for this other one. Because we know that they're similar, their sides are proportional, which means their perimeter is gonna be proportional too. So we can use a ratio and the perimeter to find the perimeter of the other figure. So that's me excited. So we have the it's fine. We have the ratio 4/3, and we need to remember that the 4 comes from this figure, the one on top, and the 3 comes from the one at the bottom. We're gonna set it equal to the perimeters. So we have the 60. Where would that go?
Top.
The top, just comes from that one, and that will be your x. And now we can cross multiply. So 4x is equal to 60 times 30, 180. And now we divide by 4. X is equal to 45. So that will be your answer for the perimeter of the second figure. So the scale factor, perimeter for the second figure, the first figure, and 45 perimeter for the second figure. Any questions on this?
No. I thought I was gonna have one.
No?
Yeah,
No,
I
sir.
understand.
Okay. Okay, let's try this one. Two similar rectangles have a scale factor of 2 to 4. The perimeter of the larger rectangle is 80 meters. Find the perimeter of the smaller rectangle. So, you guys remember from last class, what do we do when we see the first two numbers? Somebody say it. Yep, we write it down as a fraction. So we have 2, 4. And we write it down as a fraction. Now we find our third number, which is 80. And we are going to write it down as another fraction. Where would 80 go? Will it go on top or bottom? Bottom. And just explain why.
Because the 4 is bigger than 2.
Yep. And it says it's larger rectangle. So the 4 is larger, so it will be 80. And then you will have an x there. Now you can cross multiply. That will be 4x is equal to 80 times 2. 160. Now we divide by 4. X is equal to 40. Any questions on this?
No, sir.
Okay. Oh, and that's this Geiger's job. You want to explain it?
You're not my real father because he's the.
That's loud.
Oh,
What do you do?
And then she has another one.
Because they're saying they're Starbucks.
Get it? Starbucks?
Like standing
Starbucks like
Uh,
80 times.
That wasn't fun.
I can't.
Santa can create anything.
I can't. Let alone yeah.
Alright, I think your assignment is it unlocked now?
It is.
Your assignment is unlocked now.
Refresh.
Perfectly.
so exciting.
It's a
That was
silly
like
That's
little.
what I was gonna say. I was like, it's so
Literally the whole
untied.
time when he was teaching, my brain was going, Rachel.
Okay, you guys have an
Weak
assignment
today.
now?
Yeah.
I couldn't think.
I'm gonna help you on a few exams, then you guys can solve the rest. So, question 1. Okay, we need to fill in the blank, and we have angle A is, what does this mean?
W. Equal.
Congruent. It's congruent to W. Okay, just make sure you guys use capital letters when you write down the answers, because otherwise it's gonna give it wrong. You guys can do the next 3. And the second part is now talking about proportion from the sides. AB corresponds to WX. Remember, here's the second letter, here's the second letter. Then BC, it's Y, and then CD, what would that be? Proportional to YC. And now you can do the second part. Okay, let's see if you guys paid attention. Question 4. 2 polygons are similar if and only if their corresponding angles are congruent. Make sure you guys spell it right. Congruent. And their corresponding sides are proportional.
My sounding out skills are good.
Alright, question number 5. Figures that are similar have the same shape, but not necessarily the same size.
Still, I didn't even know it was going in the first.
Okay. Question 7. A company makes a car flag that is similar in shape to the most popular size Oklahoma state flag shown below. If the car flag has a length of 12 inches, what is its width? So, anybody has any idea what do we do first? Yeah.
Ooh. Never mind.
Okay. You remember when we see the first 2 numbers, what do we do when we see
We
the
fraction it.
And then we do equals.
So 5,
18 would go on
3 is gonna be equal to something else. Now, what does 5 represent the length or the width?
The length.
So this is the length, this is the width. So L, I, W, and we can label it so that we remember 5 represents length, 3 represents width, and then our third number, what does that represent? The 12? The length. So will it go on top or bottom? Top because it's length and width. And now we can cross multiply. And you guys can solve that. I will give you the answer. You guys write this down so that you can find the answer?
Yeah.
7.2.
Yes.
Then you can solve that one. Okay, go to number 19. Go to question 19. A lot of students ask for help on this one, so I'm going to help you guys on this one. So it's saying that these 2 figures are similar to each other, and it's asking us to find factor for the figure. So how do we do that? You guys remember how to find the scale factor?
Add all the sides together.
Corresponding sides. Remember the scale factor is comparison between two numbers corresponding sides. So what two numbers could we use?
20 and 40.
20 and 25, just this 25 is the same as this. So 20 over 25. And for it to be a ratio, it needs to be on this reduced form. So what would it be? 4/5. So we will write 4 to 5. Okay? Now remember, this 4 comes from this 20 and this 5 comes from this 20. Now, find the perimeter of ABCD. Can somebody tell me the perimeter for ABCD?
20, 40,
68. Good. Because 20 plus 20 is 40 plus 14 is 54 plus 14 is 68. Now that we have the perimeter for this, we need to find the one for this one. And like I said earlier, because their sides are proportional, their perimeter is going to be proportional too. So we can use the scale factor 4, 5. And remember the 4 comes from, let's say, left and right. 4 comes from the figure on left, 5 comes from the figure on the right. It's going to be equal to, we need the perimeter on this side. So where will 68 go? The top, because it's the one from the left. That would be your S. So we can cross multiply. 4x is equal to 5 times 68. Okay, and now we can divide by 4. X is equal to
85.
So that's gonna be your answer for 19. I think number 20 is kind of similar. I think you guys will be able to solve it. But if you have any more questions, you can ask me or Ms. Geiger, and we'll be able to help you. Okay? You guys ready?